Every woman needs to take that universal path to find self-worth, a voice, and a cherished life. That path is the heroine's journey, the roadmap to an amazing adventure that women travel to discover their true selves. The heroine's journey is not about getting on your superpowers and going out to fight the lions, tigers, and bears of the outside world with your might. That would be the hero's journey. This woman's journey is the internal journey that a woman takes to grow her courage and strength and travel to her best life.
I'm so excited. My book is now live on Amazon. It's been a 10-year project for me so that I can bring this information to you because it's been so valuable to me. If you'll go to Amazon, look for The Heroine's Journey, Joan Perry, you'll find the book. $4.99 for you for just a limited time. Go get it now.
Hey, Joan, how's it going today?
It's good. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah. What should we talk about today?
I was thinking about one of my favorite topics, which is movies. And
Oh, wow.
I was thinking about the hero's journey as compared to the heroine's journey.
Yes.
Because I know
A
you
big topic for us.
a huge, huge topic.
Tell us why, from your background, why that's important to you.
Because pretty much every movie that gets made, that's produced, is all structured around the hero's journey. You know, we love it religiously. I think obviously Star Wars helped us with that, and introduced us to Joseph Campbell and the whole thing. But every movie basically follows that same pattern. And so I think to some extent we societally have internalized that. And so we expect that for ourselves, whether that's in our life or that's how we tell stories to somebody else. And being introduced to the heroine's journey and the work that you've been doing has opened my eyes to a different path, a different look at like, what is it actually for women?
Yeah, because Joseph Campbell came up with this concept that there was an underlying plot line for a man's life that gets him to maturity. And the interesting part about it is that I don't think as women we ever sat back and said, does that fit me? Because see if this resonates with you. I mean, pretty much, I think in the era that we both grew up in, we took a look around and we said, what is success? And then we decided that success was certainly the path a man was following.
Yep.
Because I don't know about you, but growing up, I saw a lot of women who were pretty dissatisfied. I remember telling my mother, this is embarrassing. I remember telling her that I didn't want to grow up to clean toilets because
Amen.
I kind of thought that, I was expressing in shorthand what I was thinking about my life as a woman and growing up into that. So if that's what we did, and we looked around and we said, what is success? And it's the man, then doesn't it make sense that we looked around and said, well, success must mean following the hero's path?
Yep. Totally. And that's how we've structured our lives, how we view our lives.
Uh-huh. And the hero's path, it turns out, is going out. It's an external journey to go fight the lions, tigers, and bears and bring home the bacon.
Yep. And how many women have tried to follow that?
A lot, I think.
I think pretty much almost every one of them, really.
Certainly those of us who went into the workforce.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I noticed when I started this work that there are a lot of women who get to midlife and then they say to themselves, I'm not so satisfied with my life. Like there's something missing. I always characterize it by saying I got to the top of the ladder, but the ladder was in the wrong building.
Yeah. I think that epitomizes certainly where I am right now. Like I'm kind of looking around going, okay, what I'm not sure about this.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I've come to be, I'm so blessed to have you with me on this work. It's just been such a joy. And your filmmaking background and your storytelling background brings so much of a dimension to the work we're doing here at the Heroine's Journey. And your understanding that so many of the movies that have been produced, whether it's Star Wars or it's The Hobbit, so many of the stories are built on the plot line for a man's life. And
Yeah.
yes, we look at it and we enjoy it because I think the other thing that we're really good at doing is kind of putting ourselves in the mindset of men. I had to do that to go to work. And so we are trying to relate to those stories. But yet at the same time, my sense that I got to the top of the ladder, but the ladder was in the wrong building, tells me that perhaps there's another plot line for women.
Well, I feel like, and this is something I've been really looking at for myself internally when you're talking about women enjoying The Hobbit or Star Wars or, any of these movies, but also we see it so much that we internalize it
Uh-huh.
and accept it as fact that this is the only way to be successful. This, you have to follow this path um, to find success, to be considered successful
Right.
in the world or in this culture, so to speak.
Because one of the questions we raise in the heroine's journey is, what does success look like for a woman? I don't believe our culture has ever told us that. When we get to be 70 or 80 years old and we look back on our lives and we say, was I successful? It's pretty hard to name it because we don't even really know what it is. I mean, it's pretty obvious for a guy. Again, the external path that a guy takes, he goes out, finds the lions, tigers, and bears, and brings back the bacon. So, pretty much, if a guy makes some money and does well in his career in our culture, he's successful. But do we ascribe that same notion to women?
No, women who have those things or have done those things, I don't necessarily think that we would say that they're successful. You know what I mean? Even though, yes, they are manifestly successful, but that definition isn't applied equally to both sides.
Because maybe success shows on a man on the outside, but maybe there's an inside to us that we're not feeling like it applies to us.
Yeah.
I know personally, I got to around 55 and I'd done really well in my career. I certainly made a lot of money. I had a beautiful house. I had a clothes closet that had designers who lived in it. I had jewelry that was magnificent, but I just kind of had this nagging feeling that that was not everything there was for me.
I'm assuming that this was before you went on your personal heroine's journey.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. I think I had that thought about 5 minutes before the whole thing exploded. And I was rudely, badly, terribly thrust onto the heroine's journey. Because as we talk about in the 13 steps that we've designed, that's often the way it starts. It often starts from out of the blue, in something that you didn't expect that totally dismantles the life as you've constructed it, engineered it. And then all of a sudden you're left feeling like you don't even have what it takes to go forward, but you do. You had a beautiful quote from Joseph Campbell about what he thought, because Joseph Campbell was the maker, let's say, of the hero's journey and told us what the steps of the heroine's journey look like. And when you just read it to me, I was astounded by the last part of it. So maybe you could read that and we could talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess this was at a workshop that he did back in 1983. And what he said was, I don't know what the counterpoint would be in the woman's case. There is a feminine counterpart to the trials and the difficulties, but it certainly is in a different mode. I don't know the counterpart, the real counterpart, not the woman pretending to be male, but the normal feminine articologically of this experience. I wouldn't know what that would be. Women will have to tell us the way a woman experiences the journey if it is the same journey.
I love that, because our premise is that it's not the same journey. And that once we understand that we're on a different journey than men, we have an opportunity throughout our whole life, not only to make choices, but to also make sure that we live in the joy, prosperity, and freedom that we intend to live in for our lives. So I love that quote. In fact, I just said to you, you know, my new book comes out next week, and I'm going to have to go add that quote at the very end of
Pull
the
it back
book.
open.
I'm going to have to do that. I just talked to my editor about it. He's going to, you know, jump up and down. But I love it, because there's Joseph Campbell saying the hero's journey is not the journey of a woman. I don't really know what it is. Women are going to have to tell us that. And I think that's what you and I are all about. You know, we're all about talking about the 13 steps, which are decidedly, distinctly, absolutely different for a woman than they are for a man. The man's journey, as we just said, is an external journey. The woman's journey is an internal journey. And in that internal journey, we take on very different characteristics than the characteristics of the hero's journey. So,
well, and I think that it would be a great time, a great opportunity. I know that, like, when this podcast started, you kind of went through the different steps, but it probably wouldn't be a bad thing to remind me and everybody else, like, what are those steps? Because we're all very familiar with the hero's journey, you know, and going out into the world and finding the mentor and fighting the dragons and doing all the things. But I think it's worth repeating what the heroine, the feminine journey is.
will you do that?
Sneaky. Yes, I will. I am prepared for this.
Good. I'll add to it along the way.
Okay. So the first step is the status quo. You're living in your comfort zone, which I think you described earlier as beautiful house, and you had the closet with all the designers, and you were successful in your occupation, your business. Anything else?
Pretty much just that. I couldn't see anything on the horizon that was going to disrupt this perfect, and I'm saying perfect from the outside, not from the inside, but this perfect life that I had so carefully constructed. I had it all neatly aligned and pinned and all that kind of stuff, and nothing was going to change it. And guess what? Step 2 came along.
And then the crisis appears.
Oh,
and the unthinkable happens.
The unthinkable.
Why, with that specifically, like, why on the heroine's journey do you think? Because I feel like this is a really important key moment that launches women into their journey. Why? I guess, what is my question? My question is, do we, I mean, I guess is not to make it similar to the hero's journey, but, like, is this our moment when we sort of get kicked out of the nest, when we sort of are pushed out of our comfort zone, like everything is good, everything is fine, and then we are reminded in this step that actually it's not?
Yeah, if I talk about it a little bit in the book, but I think it's that by going down the path of the hero's journey, we've actually denied our own gifts and talents and the way that we're supposed to actually show up in the world. And it's almost like the universe intervening really rudely, saying, I let you go off on your own for a while. Stop right here. You know, and the truth is that when you hit that crisis point, you're like an onion. The layers of the onion start to peel off, because whatever you thought you could do or be or design, it's usually bigger than you are. And you can't hold on or make pretenses or make it seem like, you know, how you show up to the world is more important than what's supposed to show up inside of you.
Nice. I love how you say that.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the third moment, which feels to me a little bit like an extension of the crisis appears, because now you're in the challenge, which is the darkest moment.
Mhm. Boy, I can remember my darkest moment so well. It was when I really felt like, I'm going to say it honestly the way I want it. I felt like a huge failure. And the reason why is that nothing that I had inside of me seemed to work. Like all, whether it was the schooling or the planning or the engineering or the showing up with a skinny body or the, you know, or the beautiful house where, I made it all look so good on the outside. In that moment, I just felt so out of control, so ineffective, so, um, not, and by the way, not the way I wanted to see myself at all. Because I was thinking that, I was smart enough to have it tuned in and dialed up. And in that moment, something said, there's something out there bigger than you are. It was almost a sit down and shut up moment.
Pay attention.
Exactly. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Which I guess perfectly leads us into the fourth step, which is the character revelation. You realize what you're made of.
Yeah, and for me, like, I was so inept. I was so out of my league, that I literally, and I can remember this moment, I went to church that Sunday and I got down on my knees and I said, oh God, I cannot do this by myself. Like, whatever it is, I need a helping hand. I need resources I don't have. I need help I don't have. I was just on my knees because I couldn't figure it out myself. The problems seemed too big. They came at me too fast. I didn't know how to handle it. I certainly couldn't reclaim my own life. That was gone. And I was left with this, but who am I? Am I going to die here, fall off the planet? What's going to happen here? And, if you don't want me to fall off the planet, then please help me. Interestingly, I really pleaded and I said, if it all falls apart, what's left? And the answer that I got back was you. And that was such a startling moment to me because I thought, you, well, that's pretty good. you know, that's pretty good.
And I do think that a lot of times if you ask somebody, like, if all else fails, if the world is collapsing around you, like, what can you count on? What do you believe in? What do you depend on? And I don't think a lot of people's answers would be me. Like it's something that they've never had to necessarily rely on before in the same way. And I guess kind of the crisis sets that up. So suddenly you realize how powerful, how strong you truly are.
Exactly. Exactly. And if there was no intervention, I don't know that you would come to that point. Because having written the heroine's journey now and being able to look back on it at that stage, what I would tell you is that was the moment that a higher power said to me, you own your life. It was a scary moment because it was like, oh, freak, I owned it. Now what do I do with it? But it did tell me that I wasn't supposed to own it the way I had been trying to present it in the past. I owned it. I owned my happiness. I owned my choices. I owned my body. I owned, and there was a lot of me that was compromising me and not living fully in my own nature that suddenly all went up for grabs.
It feels a little bit like, and again, I only know you now. I don't know you from before, but it feels like before you were presenting.
Exactly.
You were presenting your life or your reality, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and I love this because you use the word, now you were owning it.
Yeah. I was the classic type A that was going to be the best at whatever I did. I was going to have you think I was the best, whatever it was. But that was not living in my own true, authentic self.
Yeah. Living in what would make you actually happy.
Exactly. Hey, exciting. Look at the screen. The book, The Heroine's Journey, The Art of Becoming the Heroine of Your Own Life, is now up. You can download it as an ebook. I got something really special for you, too. The ebook is at 99 cents for the next 2 weeks. It's a special offer to our inner circle. Those of you who are listening to the great journey that we're talking about on our podcast every week. The book takes you into the understanding of the heroine's journey and your journey. And once you've read the book, we'd love for you to come back and tell us about how the heroine's journey is working out for you. Please write us a review. In the meantime, The Heroine's Journey on Amazon for 99 cents for you for just a limited time. Go get it now.
So the next step is Called to the Crusade, Confronting New Realities. It's starting to move forward.
Yeah, except at that moment you want to swim back. It's like, can I just swim back into the womb? I might not have liked it all that much in status quo, but it all looked good. And I could kind of tuck it in bed and think it was, so could I swim back to that? Because I didn't know anything different at that point.
Well,
And
and I could also, go.
No, go.
I was going to say, I could also see that as much as status quo was not making you happy and or was not filling you with joy, you knew how to navigate it. Like
Exactly.
you knew what the rules of that game were. You knew how to do it. You could do it with your eyes closed. Like, so in some respects, it felt safe.
Yeah. Yes.
Just because of that. But it wasn't actually safe because it wasn't really you.
That's right. And every time I raised my foot to put it down on the next step, I was afraid I was just going to fall off the planet. But somebody at that point said something very wise to me. They said, it's trust and faith at that point, because you pick up your foot and you put it down and you have to trust that the step is going to come up to meet you. And when this person told me that and she invited me to look back, she was right. I didn't think the step was there, but when I look back over the different occasions, that step came up, not early, didn't say that's the path
Just as you're
forward.
stepping.
It was only when I was just about to put my foot down.
And that is so aptly, your angel showed up. Step 6, your support system arrives.
Yeah. Yeah. And boy, is that a blessed step. Because in step number 6, when angels show up, they do so many things for you. One, your angels love you. And boy, do you need love at that point. Secondly, they believe in you. And I mean,
you don't even believe in you at that point.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, that was so needed. And the other thing is that they can show up with resources and capabilities that you just don't have at that point. And that was true for me. An angel showed up. I didn't even know this person. When everything was falling apart in my life, they just kind of appeared one day. And they turned out to really be angelic in my life and kind of pick me up and give me some direction that I needed. And I think that's another trust and faith thing. is that while if you've gone through the heroine's journey, you've probably been burned and, and all kinds of other things by people, and your faith in people can really get hammered. So you're like, at this stage, who could show up to help me? I mean, like, other people only ruined my life. Who's going to be here to help me?
Well, and
But
I could totally see also at that step that you feel that you are all alone. I mean, because that's sort of the part of the first five pieces, which is like everything that you've come to depend on, everything that you thought was real has fallen away now, and now it's just you. And so there is that feeling that you can't depend on other people, or you can't depend on somebody to help you. There is nobody who can help you. You are lost and alone, and you just will have to wander until you figure it out, or I mean, any of that. um
and the truth in life is there are good people and there are bad people. And that's the lesson I got there. Is that I thought I was so capable that I didn't surround myself with anybody who I thought would necessarily support or help me.
mhm.
I was pretty arrogant. I didn't think I needed support or help, honestly.
Even at this moment.
At this moment, it became very clear to me that I did need that. Which is all why it's purposeful to go through the disruptive process that characterizes the first part of the heroine's journey, because it's about opening you up to flexibility, to new thoughts, to new ideas, to new direction. And your angels can start to show you another path forward.
What did it take, if you were coming into that step with the mindset of, I'm alone, I'm doing this alone, it's just on me, what did you have to think, or what did they have to say to you, or whatever, for you to be willing to accept their help, to open your idea of your thoughts to the idea that somebody could help you, would help you, that they had valuable advice that would help you move forward?
Really, really good question, because you can miss that step if you don't get this piece. And the piece was, so the person who came into my life as an angel was a guy.
Okay.
And he left a sign on my office door that said, "Wanna play?" Because after I met him, he wanted to become a friend.
Uh-huh.
The step that's so important here is that I decided for the first time in my life to be vulnerable.
Ooh.
What I told him was that it was not what it looked like. It looked like I had this beautiful office building, like I had a successful business, like I had the whole package wrapped up with a red bow on the top of it. And I explained to him it was a disaster. And I did not know how I was going to solve it. So I just wanted him to understand that this was the case. It was the first time I was ever that vulnerable in my life. I used to hide the things, that weren't perfect because I wanted to appear perfect. And the second part is that I tell this story in the new book coming out. I went to another friend, and I said, "I need your help." And that person said to me, "Your problems are too big for me to help you."
Oof. Ouch.
Ouch. So I had the sting of that.
Mm-hmm.
But this person, who was truly an angel, when I admitted my vulnerability, he pitched right in to help. He literally gave me a list every day and said, "Don't worry about the big picture.
Just
Just
take
do this
this.
for today and this for tomorrow." And he helped
Wow.
me pack up stuff when I moved, because what initiated so much of this was a divorce. And so I had to move out of my house. But it was those two things. It was being willing to be vulnerable so that people could really see the authentic me and what was going on. And the second part was to ask the right person for help. A
But you don't
person
always
that,
but you don't always know who the right person is.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I asked the first person and he said, and it was a person that should have supported me.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought, but I guess you just have to be willing to take that until you find somebody who does.
And I feel like when the crisis appears and you're going through all of this stuff, that's also a moment where a lot of the people that are around you, particularly if you're talking about a divorce or something, fall away. And
Absolutely.
so your friends that you thought were your friends
Yeah.
aren't there anymore or can't handle the transition.
Because the people that I chose liked the excitement and the things that I created. So they were there to be part of it. But as soon as I needed some help, they were just ready to throw me under the bus.
Hit the
Yeah,
road, Jack.
exactly. And don't come back, Jack.
Well, and it sounds like your angel sort of helped you with the seventh step, which is gathering your provisions and acquiring fuel for your flight by giving you, like, as opposed to saying, okay, this is the entire path and this is all of the way you go. It's like, okay, here's the next step. Just do this step. Just focus on this step, gather your provisions there, and then we'll get to the next one.
It's that same concept about you take the step and the step rises to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
There were many things to consider in that regard because, money comes up right there.
Oh, yeah.
How much is in my checking account? Because now I've got to hire a divorce lawyer. There were just so many things. So provisions include everything from money to the resources of people that you have around you, to your physical resources, how much oomph we call it that you have that can muster up the strength and courage that you need. It's all those messages that you're saying to yourself about yourself. Because in gathering my resources, I could not be sabotaging my own brain. And by that, I mean, I couldn't be blaming other people that I was in this circumstance. That didn't help. I couldn't be blaming myself that I was in that circumstance. That didn't help. I had to get real clear about the messages that I was telling my own head.
Big one. Such a big one.
Such a big one. Such a big one.
And those messages are so sneaky. They're so sneaky.
They are. They are. You find yourself saying something that diminishes or demolishes you, and you need a delete key like on a computer, keyboard, where you just say delete, get rid of that, go away, you're not helping me.
Yeah.
Because at that point I needed every bit of self motivation and conviction. And one of the things that really helped me is I started saying to myself, first of all, the big one I started just saying to myself was that I was a creation of God. That I was a creation of God, the universe, whatever you call it, the divine. You don't come roaring down the birth canal and somebody stamps you approved or somebody else stamps you disapproved. No, I was perfectly created. And then when I would hear people who wanted to watch me fall at that point, say whatever they would say, I would say to myself, you just don't know who my bigger self is. You just don't know. And that would help me just push away whatever, comment that they had in the moment or way that they wanted to see me demise because they were tired of how I did look perfect in the past, and between those two things, those were the two strong beliefs. I believe I was born in perfection, and I believe that you cannot see all of my perfection. So you will sometime.
It's coming. It's coming for you.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm gonna get this quote completely wrong, but the basis of the quote is stories are not reality. Like, so the stories that you tell yourself are not generally the reality, or probably ever the reality of the situation. It's
Right.
It's an interpretation by you. And so if you're going to tell yourself stories, if you're going to interpret your reality, you might as well do that to empower yourself, to elevate yourself, than to break yourself down, to, to destroy yourself. It's your choice at the end of the day.
And why not? Because I'm here to live a joyful, prosperous, freedom-filled life. So if I am not living that life, am I putting myself in my own trash compactor?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because sometimes we can do ourselves in better than other people can do ourselves in.
We know where all the buttons are.
Yeah, and here's the deal. The directions are on the outside of the box.
Yeah.
You got to crawl out of the trash compactor to be able to read the directions so that you can go forward.
Yeah. And going forward is about taking empowered action, spreading your wings and learning how to fly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the true test of a heroine. That is when you say to yourself, I can and I will. When you just get fierce feminine, because the first steps are the hardest steps.
Always.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Well, and those are also the steps when you're the least sure.
Yeah.
Like I love the analogy of spreading your wings and flying, but even to fly, like even birds that fly or butterflies, or like they have to strengthen their wings. They have to test their wings. They have to learn how to use their wings before they can fly.
That's right. And the hardest part is the first couple of steps. It's, I think up until you get to the fourth or fifth step, you're still saying in your brain, can I swim back into the womb? By the time you get to the fourth or fifth step, you've convinced yourself that you're going forward. And at that point, new possibilities start to open up. Because, see, the reason that we live in fear or the reason that we doubt is that we don't see options.
Yeah.
Once you see a good option, you're like, okay, I'm running ahead for that. Somebody said something beautiful to me at that point, too. I was at a conference and I just had a, I don't know, 15-second conversation with this guy who was absolutely meant to come into my life. Angels can come for your whole lifetime or for 15 seconds. And I was moaning to this guy about how, I couldn't go back to my old life and what I'd been doing before and yada, yada. And he looked at me and he said so beautifully, Joan, you're just stepping off one stage to step onto another one.
That is pretty damn good.
And I went away thinking, that's right. There are more options.
And I think that's the key is I know so many people, I know myself as well on occasion, where you get so tunneled into the single thing. It's got to be this or nothing, or this is the only thing that I can do. This is the only skill that I have. This is the only option that I have. When in reality, particularly in this day and age, options are infinite. Possibilities are infinite.
Mm-hmm. But if you've been slammed, bam, thrown in the gutter, whatever, all you can see is the train or the truck or the, whatever that hit you. And you think that you're confined to that reality. The truth is you're not. There are options. And the faster that you can believe in yourself and tell yourself good things about yourself, the faster you can account for your resources, the faster that you can surround yourself with good people, and the faster that you can raise up your energy to deal with it, the faster you can go running after those options.
Because the reality is that the wind currents will test you, which is step 9.
Yeah, so you're floating along, you think you're out of this. I do remember that exact moment where I was like, I did fine. I got through it. I'm out of this. I weathered the storm. I ponied up, all of that. And then the most bizarre incident in the world came out of left field again and just clobbered me again. And the danger of that moment was is that I thought, could this take me out? After all that I've traveled, after all that I've been through, could this be the one that takes me out? Not the more significant stuff that I went through, like the divorce and a family estate problem and some other things like that. No, this silly, crazy, wacko situation. Could this be the one that takes me out? And in that moment, I had to say to myself, oh no, because the new understanding I had and the new phraseology was my heroine's voice just screamed, no, because you are a heroine. And it is in that moment. I call it a pop quiz. And
Yeah.
the pop quiz wants to know, are you a heroine? If you're not, we'll send you back. You can go, go back through some of the pain and torture again. Or are you really ponying up? Do you own your life?
I think when you get to this, like the wind currents, they can really mess with your head.
Yes.
Like it's one of those things, it's like it's testing whether you truly believe that you own yourself and you own your life. Because I think that it's very easy at that moment to get kicked back down. And then you have to take the steps. You have to walk the steps back up again, or accept the wind currents and learn how to surf them, learn how to navigate them so that they don't knock you off course, and they don't shake the foundation in yourself that you're building.
That's right, because now you own your courage and your strength. Now you say to yourself, I am a heroine. I've been through it before. Nothing goes on forever. I'm going to deal with the circumstances as they are, and I will navigate this wind current because, boy, by the way, there's a horizon over there and I'm headed there.
Yeah. Because if you can do that, if you can successfully navigate the wind currents, if you can accept that life is going to continue to throw things at you, whatever that is, but you are solid in yourself, you are solid in that there are people around you who support you, and you are solid that you can navigate whatever is coming your way, then you can reach the 10th step, which is your crescendo, or you're lifted to freedom.
Because think of the movie, which I so loved, but didn't understand it when it first came out, and I only saw it as a childhood fantasy. Think of The Wizard of Oz. Okay? Dorothy landed in a strange land.
Yeah.
Okay? She met the attacking flying monkeys. She met the poppy fields. She'd already experienced the tornado. There were many things along the way, but ultimately it was her courage and strength that carried her down the yellow brick road, along with her friends who had heart and courage and mind, to, what she thought was going to be the person who was going to fix all her problems. And, don't you just think of that scene where she pulls back the curtain, and this little guy's back there doing the levers on the thing. And she realizes that she had it all along.
Yeah. Well, and it's also in The Wizard of Oz, particularly, like it's her quick thinking that allows them to keep moving forward, to get to the person that she thinks is going to solve all of her problems, when in reality she is the only one who can solve all of her problems.
That's right. And she owns her life.
And she owns her life. Yeah.
And that was the message from the good witch at the end. You've always been able to go home.
Yeah. You just didn't believe it, know it.
And when Dorothy got lifted out of her problem, she got lifted fast, which is what crescendo is. Crescendo lifts you fast. And all of a sudden, when you're up 30,000 feet, you've got a panoramic view of your whole life. and you suddenly realize the choices you can make, the changes you can make, the boundaries that you can have, your people picking skills get better, your financial life gets better, you start to live your own purpose and well-being and mission. These are all the things that when you look at a heroine and you identify heroines that you're thinking of in your life, and we invite you to do that in the book and in our courses, but just pick somebody like even like an Eleanor Roosevelt. My vision of her is having such internal structure and strength and capability. It didn't go perfectly for her, but she transformed into her notable self, into her notoriety, into her presence, into what she was supposed to do being here. She kept her eye on the horizon, and when she spoke, people listened.
Yeah, a lot of people listened. Well,
Uh-huh.
and I also think, and I've heard this used in my world before, the 30,000 view. It's like, or it's another way of looking at it is the forest and the trees. Sometimes you
Uh-huh.
can't see the forest for the trees. Like you're
Uh-huh.
so in the depths of it that you can't understand that there is a bigger thing, a bigger you
Uh-huh.
happening.
But when you put your wings on and you can fly above the forest, all of a sudden you can see the terrain and you can see the configuration and you just have so much more ability to navigate.
Yeah. Which allows you to get through. And I know we haven't necessarily talked about these steps on the podcast themselves, but that allows you to get through the celebration as your dreams fly higher than your fears. You're thriving in life and living your dreams, and you're transforming the world with your heroine's homecoming.
Right. And essentially that's what we're here to do now. We're here to say, hey, we're women who've gone through this journey. We see the pattern to it. Joseph Campbell was right in one regard and wrong in another, in that we don't have a hero's journey. And I think society has been trying to force us into one. We have our own unique journey. And as we go through the steps, there is a life that I kind of want to go back for an instant now to that status quo. I wasn't being who I wanted to be. I was living in circumstances that I didn't necessarily, I'd engineered, but they weren't making me happy. There's so much that transpired over the journey that I went on that I'm very thankful for it. Even those people who I would say pissed me off or, wrecked my life, I have a strange perspective, and that's that those people were there to guide me to my better self.
Or
I
guide you
didn't
to better people.
necessarily, I just didn't necessarily like it at the time because they were so disruptive. But as I look back on it, if it wasn't for them, it's kind of like watching the play of your own life. And some people are just assigned the role of being the bad guy, so that the protagonist or the theme of the story can evolve. And there were some people in my life who were certainly very damaging and very detrimental to my life. But truth be told, I don't hold any grudge or adversity to them at this point in my life because my life has come so far and I'm now living the life that I want to live. I understand that I own my life. I understand that I can make it what I want it to look like and how I want it to be. And that certainly takes, some courage and some strength and some fortitude on my part. I'm not just saying it happens, but that as long as you have life, you have this ability.
Yeah. And I think that the big contrast to me between the hero's journey and the heroine's journey, kind of as you said, was the hero's journey is very outwardly focused. Like in some respects, you're proving to other people. And by proving to other people, you are proving therefore to yourself.
Right.
Versus the heroine's journey where you are digging deep inside to unbury the things that the gifts, the benefits, the joy, prosperity, and freedom that is in you, just waiting to come out.
Uh-huh.
but you've got to dig for it. You got to find it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the journey helps you find it.
And the journey helps you find it. Yeah.
So that's why we're here on this podcast, loving to talk about the heroine's journey. We're so passionate about it. We know that women have a unique path, and I'm of the belief that as we start to live more of our authentic selves, we're going to contribute to the world in whole new ways. We're going to have whole new businesses. We're going to find a strength and a courage that is just really, really ready for women to bring to this world. So that's why I'm doing it. And I'm delighted that you're with me.
I am excited and delighted to be here as well. It's fun to dig into the other side of the coin.
Yeah, exactly. So we hope you'll join us next week as we continue on in this discussion, the heroine's journey.
That is this week's episode of The Heroine's Journey. You can access the blog post for this episode along with other great resources at walkthejourney.com. Also, get your free ebook at walkthejourney.com so you can say goodbye to just surviving and turn into thriving. Join us next week for another fun, inspiring, and uplifting episode. If you love this episode, feel free to subscribe and give us a review on iTunes. Stay in touch on other social media platforms, Instagram and our Facebook group, both at The Heroine's Journey LLC. Until next time.